there's one person on stage that didn't train to be number one in 2018, they should not be on this stage.
How bad do you want it? Like, what are you willing to do? How hard are you willing to fight?
People think I'm kidding, but he was the first one to tell me, hey, you want to be Mr. Olympia, you need to start acting like Mr. Olympia. Talking like Mr. Olympia, walking like Mr. Olympia, training like Mr. Olympia before you become Mr. Olympia.
He could feel that vibe, you know, like something special's happening. And he just had the banging package that made it impossible in my eyes for him to lose.
His six-time Mr. Olympia.
There it is.
The gift.
Shawn had a very tough year last year. And, you know, I always tell people I work with, you know, but they don't internalize it. You have to, you know, do what you want to do and be selfish and not pay attention to anyone else. And I think this was like the first real year that he was like, you know, I don't really care. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I win. If I get hurt training, I get hurt training.
Wow.
There's 90% in and there's 120% in, and he was 120% in.
Wow.
Someone once called me a one-hit wonder. And it's like, how many times can that one-hit wonder do?
I said, listen, man, this is what it takes for a mindset, because we always talk about like the physical thing, but the mindset of like a winner, you have to have that mindset of like, hey, this is, you know, this is what I'm going to set out to do, and you don't think about like the negative stuff as much. Like you only think about, okay, the outcome has to be more positive, and listen, you have to fail in order to succeed, right? So I think really just putting in his head like, man, this is what my mindset was, and just kind of spilling over like things I lived and experienced, and that's kind of what I put in his head. Like, if you want to be Mr. Olympia, you got to act like it. And, you know, you need to act professional all the time. You need to take pictures when you don't want to. You want to train when you don't want to.
The feeling, I mean, Shawn trusted me. He trusts my different training style. He could have went with anybody. He could have went with Milos. He could have went with Neil. He could have went with anybody. And he said, I trust you to train me for the show, for these shows. And we had a lot of hiccups, but he never lost doubt. Even last year, you know, we took fifth, and he never, not one time, questioned my abilities. And then, you know, we found a magic formula, and it just worked, and everything just came together.
This Olympia prep is about to kick off, and it's great to have a great supporting cast. Chris Aceta, Psycho Fitness, Stamina.
It was really unique tonight. It was even yesterday, it was something you don't see very often, you know, with perfect conditioning, no water left, no fat, nothing, just peeled.
Came out here because I wanted to learn and I wanted to be better. I wanted to be the best at my craft. If I was going to be a professional bodybuilder, I wanted to be the best at what I'm doing.
And I keep telling myself, hey, you know what? I can beat Phil.
Today is leg days, leg days, leg day.
I love the most when you looked at Phil before the abs and thighs.
I know.
New Olympia champion!
They knew Mr. Olympia, the defending champion, has been knocked out.
We got it, baby. We got it.
Don't worry about chasing Phil. Don't worry about chasing Rody. Don't worry about chasing Big Ramy. Don't worry about chasing William Bonac. Just bring the best.
Unless we change the judging procedure, and unless we do something about where they stop just using guys with the thickest neck and the biggest muscle, but not look as pleasing. Because look at the old days when Steve Reeves won. When Steve Reeves won and you saw him on the beach, you say to yourself, I would love to have this guy's body. Wow. Look at how beautiful this man looks. But that's not what you can say about those guys the day they win those competitions. And so what I'm trying to tell the judges is that you got to go and consider, look at everything. Like for instance, so many of those guys have their stomachs sticking out. You know, what are we talking about here? I mean, it used to be that you should have a V-shaped body. Now, I don't know, it's like kind of like a bottle-shaped body or something like that. But it's not, it's a kind of, it's a weird thing that is happening on stage that no one can pull in their stomach anymore for a long period of time and stand on stage with a vacuum and pull in stomach, shoulders out, and to look athletic. So it's all of this, kind of, stomach sticking out and all this kind of, it doesn't look right anymore. And so we have to just make sure that we are rewarding the right guys, because if you reward the right guys, then everyone will start training to have a beautiful body again, rather than the powerful or the power-lifting body. So we have given the award yesterday, Lifetime Achievement Award to Jim Manning. But that does not mean that we can disagree with him. Because he is in charge of judging. He is in charge of picking the judges. And we have to talk to him, and your magazines, and also on the internet and every other means there is, call out on him and call out on those judges. Because that's how you create change, is by calling out and getting involved and saying, this is unacceptable, the way bodybuilding is going. We don't want to see the biggest guy up there. We want to see the most beautiful man, the most athletic man up there on stage.
the 14th time we...
For 2 seconds. However, I talked to a fellow